Hi everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Cardano Podcast. Today we'll be talking about a topic that a lot of you have requested. I know that NFTs have a lot of momentum at the moment, so I got in touch with the team of Comprehensive NFT Framework Collab. You can find the project in Fund 3. In Catalyst, and we discussed, of course, NFTs, the different use cases, also then the definition for the ones that don't know what a non-fungible token it is. Hi everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Cardano Podcast. I'm Ryan Morrison, your host, and today we'll be talking about a topic that has a lot of momentum. We'll be talking about non-fungible tokens, NFTs. Particularly, I'll be sitting with the team behind the proposal called Comprehensive NFT Framework Collab. And I sat down with them and we discussed NFTs, the definitions for the ones that don't know. They explained that during the interview. We talked about like the different use cases where there are at the moment, and the bigger picture as well. What they're working on NFT DAO as well. So we also talked about that and much more. So before we start with the interview, remember that you can support the Cardano podcast by voting and commenting also on IdeaScale, on our project on IdeaScale. So just go to cardanopodcast.com and then you'll be able to reach their proposal from there. Or you can just go to cardano.ideascale.com and look in Fund 4 in the campaign Catalyst Value Onboarding for Cardano Podcast. Okay, that's it. So now let's jump into the interview I had with the team behind the Comprehensive NFT Framework Collab. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Cardano Podcast. Today, as I mentioned before in the intro, we're going to be discussing NFTs and what is an NFT, and particularly about this project. So I'm here with the team behind the Comprehensive NFT Framework Collab. So thank you guys for taking the time and discussing the project.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
Sure, welcome. So for everybody that is listening to this also on different podcast platforms, you can just go to cardano.ideascale.com if you want to learn more about particularly more about the project, or you can just check the link below in the description for people that are watching this on YouTube. And without further ado, let's jump now into the project itself. Maybe we can, before we start with that, there are a lot of people that are new into crypto, and particularly to Cardano, that don't understand the difference between fungible and non-fungible tokens. Maybe we can start with that, and then we just jump more into the project itself. So any of you that would like to take that one, and then we start.
Yeah, so I think we let Troy describe those.
Sure, no worries. So for people who are new to the space, cryptocurrencies, can be daunting. So, one of the big factors about cryptocurrencies is that it's internet money is kind of how they were tagged in the beginning. So digital money. And so this idea that we can now access funds online, not just through our banks and have digital fiat, which is the digital money that we use day to day, but we can also create new tokens such as things like Bitcoin or Ethereum, and importantly, ADA through Cardano. So just like with our fiat money, if we have a single dollar, for instance, and we can use that dollar and exchange it, someone else can use that exact same physical dollar and exchange it for something else, and it can circulate that way around the economy. You can even write your name on that little dollar and you'll find it maybe later on, and it's bought a whole bunch of different things. Tokens in cryptocurrency is not too different. We can exchange freely the ADA that we have in our accounts with other people and different currencies. Now, what's different about a non-fungible token, which is known as an NFT, is that these are very unique tokens. So these can't just be changed just like our normal dollar can be changed around with different currencies. Non-fungible tokens are attached to one specific asset. So it is its own asset, but it's also can be attached to a physical item such as a collectible card or a digital artwork or even an aspect of real estate. So there is a particular code that comes with each of our cryptocurrencies, and that is attached to the token we're using. And an NFT, the code that we're using is unique and there's only one of a kind. So when you're purchasing an NFT, it means you're the only holder of that code. You're the only person who owns that asset, whatever that asset is. And this is exciting because NFT use cases, which people are discovering can be attached to many, many different assets in the world, are just coming really to the forefront of cryptocurrency at the moment. So this is an an emerging asset class. People are very interested in it because of the many use cases. And that's why we as a team have decided we want to be a part of this too. Cardano, we think, is an amazing network. We are part of that community and we want to see NFTs emerge and be a big part of our ecology as well.
Tyler, what do you think about that?
I think that was one of the best descriptions I've heard of NFTs. that was a really good try. So I'm Tyler. Have a background in product and marketing. And before this, I worked in a startup I was actually a co-founder of a startup where we created a mobile app that was about collecting geo video and making asks and requests for video. So what I'm helping with NFT DAO is really uncovering all the different use cases of NFTs. I'm especially interested in how NFTs can be used with video. That's kind of like my own user story. Like, how can we wrap video in NFTs, and how can we create an exchange of value around unique video assets as NFTs? But that's not all there is to NFTs. There's digital art, there's multimedia assets. You can tokenize things like real estate. Really, we're just scratching the surface, and our job right now is really to figure out what are all the things that we can really tokenize through NFTs, and what's the best strategy to doing that so that everyone's ideas can be included in this on Cardano, so we can build the platform that's going to be useful for the most people possible to help make NFTs out of their creative work.
So one of the things that we thought about as we put this proposal in was NFTs are going to be a very big part of our future. The future of economy, the future of the financial operating system. And so we wanted to make sure that NFTs had a place on Cardano, and that Cardano could be the go-to place in the future for most NFTs. Of course, there'll be other blockchains doing things, but we really have a lot of opportunities because of the way Cardano is built. And so we're thinking about building on top of Cardano, which we see as the rails, a thing called a boxcar, which we're affectionately calling the boxcar. That is a marketplace that literally anybody could put a business opportunity in. The idea behind that is, there in the Catalyst community, there were 42 proposals when we looked at that. Now there's up to I think it's 65 different proposals for people trying to build something around NFTs. So we felt like we could get economies of scale by getting all of those ideas together and collaborating with everybody and doing it once, spending the community funds once on building something that's a framework, a scaffolding that everybody could use. So that's the background story. Michael, you're working on some of the deeper metadata stuff, right?
Yeah, so I'm Michael. I'm a developer helping out on the effort. So yeah, kind of to reiterate what Rich was saying is we're trying to get a kind of a common ground for how the metadata is actually going to be embedded in these NFTs. So if you can imagine, there's a lot of projects and people with a lot of ideas saying, we want to build we have our own use case for NFTs. So what we're trying to do is trying to come up with a common ground or a standard for how NFTs are going to interact, and what the metadata behind these types of different assets are going to look like. So something like trading an art asset might have different data embedded in it than, say, a concert ticket or real estate or a game or something like, or music. So we're trying to come up with a standard so that for each subclass, and then make it expandable so people can build on top of, if they want to add something extra to it. But the goal is to make something that's easily accessible and a common ground so that not everyone's inventing their own way to house the same type of data.
We've kind of been thinking about it as the Shopify of NFTs, right? So you can go and anybody can set up a store on Shopify really, really easily. And that's what we want to do on top of Cardano. Cardano has the fee structure that allows for this to happen. For instance, not to dwell on other blockchains, but there was like $14 billion worth of transactions on Cardano for about $7,500 worth of fees. And that same $14 billion worth of transactions in the same time period on Ethereum was $23 million of fees. So there's a definite benefit of building this on top of Cardano. There's a lot of things that they're doing with ERC20 converters. Eventually they'll have a ERC20 721 converter, and that'll be exciting, right? Pulling a lot of that business over. So we want to prepare the infrastructure for all of that, and not just be thinking about one use case, one specific storefront, but let's build the infrastructure that really supports Cardano being the penultimate place that people build NFT businesses on top of.
Yeah, you now mentioned the what will be coming in the near future, not just the ERC20 converter, but not the ERC 721. For people that don't know that, those are the non fungible tokens in the Ethereum network. So maybe we can talk about also how do you guys envision the growth of the platform also, because one is on the organic growth from native tokens in Cardano, and this other option also, or is also adding all these NFTs that are already in Ethereum that could eventually pass to the Cardano with a converter like that. How do you guys see that in the near future for the platform?
So I'll pipe up here, having a lot of discussions with the IOG folks about the back end stuff that they're working on, so that they can enable these things. And of course, they want the same things, right? So they want it to move seamlessly, and that's why the ERC20 converter is even being built in the first place, right? So I literally see $1 trillion+ business being built on top of Cardano around NFTs. And it's not necessarily all of the transaction stuff, but it's the sale and resale of those NFTs, and being able to capture that in smart contracts, when all of the Plutus and Marlowe stuff is really active. And that's just, next quarter, right? We'll be seeing a lot of this stuff hitting. So we want to get prepared now and, keep ahead of the wave.
Yeah, it makes sense. Maybe also we can discuss about I saw there were some also comments in the proposal of people that were asking how does the competitive landscape look like at the moment. You mentioned in the content of the project also that some other competitors like Wax, or maybe we can also talk about the competitive landscape.
Yeah. Tyler, did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Let me unmute myself. I just want to make sure there's no background noise when everyone else is talking. We don't necessarily see ourselves as competitors to all NFT marketplaces. We like to envision ourselves more as facilitators. We want to give a solution where, like, if maybe you're on Ethereum, for example, and you don't have a huge bankroll and you want to mint an NFT, we want to give an alternative to that for someone to come over and work with us. And right now we're focusing on building on Cardano and making the best thing possible on Cardano. But once we perfect this platform, this boxcar that we're calling it, what's to say we can't bring other blockchains into it and bring those into Cardano as well, and build a whole interoperable system around our NFT platform. That's my grand vision of that. I am a big proponent of interoperability.
And one of the things that's interesting with the competitive landscape, and it's also a huge input, there's two real big inputs right now. The 42 proposals that are already talking about wanting to do something on top of Cardano, understanding what all those use cases are. But then there's the universe of NFTs out there already and how they've built their infrastructures. All of that stuff has to be looked at, decomposed, and find the best parts of all of that and build that into the system. Well, that's a long tail problem to solve, right? There's a lot of stuff that needs to get built into this over time. But we want to have a quick start with something that is very easy to do immediately to get Cardano in the game, if you will, around NFTs, and people can start using almost immediately in the next couple of quarters, not a 2 and 3 year bake cycle, if you will. So, yeah. Of course, we see us continually updating and refactoring and making sure that the technology is solid over time. And so one of the things we're thinking about, and a lot of these guys have talked about in the thing. Troy, maybe you can talk about what NFT DAO is thinking about.
Yeah, sure. So, and just to reiterate a couple points that were made there too, Ryan, I just wanted to reiterate that point about interoperability. I think is very important, and I think that's part of, for me, that's kind of my takeaway of the spirit of Cardano. Cardano's, looking about how we can use collective intelligence, putting out Project Catalyst, for instance, looking at ways that the community can contribute ideas, but also vote on those ideas and have just this collective ownership of the Cardano project. And I think that's where the spirit of the DAO comes from as well. For me, it's about, there is an opportunity, and what drew me to the proposal was this sort of macro vision of how can we approach a project or an issue on Cardano. And for me, I liked Rich's idea around focusing NFTs not just as individuals but as a community, and that's what drew me to the DAO, because I think that's one of the big draw cards about Cardano and about the blockchain space, is this idea of working together and decentralizing governance and having opportunities to build out platforms in that way. And so for the DAO for us, and we have had questions about what do you think a DAO is, and it's interesting because we can get a chance to sit down with a community who have grown since the proposal. From Rich's initial proposal, Tyler and I came on the same day, and now we have Michael come along, and then we've got almost 50 people in the community, and each of them have unique input, perspectives and experiences within the blockchain space and within their own fields that all adds value to the conversation, and that is very, very important. And so being able to touch on these ideas of working together, of building out teams together, of thinking about what the gaps are, and each individual will be able to identify different gaps and different opportunities that one person can't. And that's not to detract from people who are working in NFTs and want to keep working in their own team. It's more so that we can, still have an infrastructure that can support those teams who want to go it alone, but also support people who want to work together as well in a collective. And so we're still ideating, and it's going to be an ongoing and emergent process in terms of when someone comes to us, or when we approach a person who's on the same wavelength or interested in NFTs, how we work together. So how do we have a partnership? How do we collaborate? And different players are going to have different, I guess, expectations of what a relationship may ensue, and so that's something we're just learning about as we go as well, and especially we're using Project Catalyst and Cardano as inspiration for that process.
Yeah, to your point, NFT DAO is not what we started with, but we're looking at how do we govern what we started with. Clearly, bringing one person's proposal to where now there's 50 people ideating around it shows that there's something there. There's an attractor factor. And we think it's culture. We think it's the way we think about this. We're very, very open. My background is open source. I've open sourced projects before and to the community. And we actually think about the contributions everybody makes are important and they're valued. And so there is a more of a hierarchical structure in this early stage as we build the thing that's most important. How do we get this boxcar done? And then we're also thinking about the overall governance as we grow, and it will emerge from there being a DAO-like structure, much like Catalyst is. Catalyst is a big DAO focused on how do we do things around Cardano, and we are like a little DAO inside of the big DAO. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, okay, we've got to do things around Cardano, but we also have to have a focus around these NFTs. So there needs to be a group of people that coagulate around that idea and take ownership of it. And then any new people coming in, there's a place for them now inside of there. Oh, you're talking about NFTs? Why don't you go work with these guys in the NFT DAO? And then we also see that, eventually as funding grows, that if we do all of this correctly, that they could get special funding right inside the NFT DAO. So we've got a lot of big ideas for the future, but we're also very focused on the now, which is let's get something up and running. What do you think, Michael?
Yeah, I think it's kind of approaching it from both ends of the spectrums is a good idea. So like Rich mentioned, right now it's somewhat structured just so we can get something organized and get the right people in a room and think about like how some initial proposals might be made, and then go out and say, post on some forums and go back to IOG saying like, here's what, the community and people in NFT DAO have proposed, how does this look while we start building it in the background, and, kind of going in the process of collecting feedback as a community and start building something from the ground up like that. And then with the goal being, being fully open source later so anyone can contribute. And, we're not going to get it perfect the first time. So, someone can say like, oh, hey, I'm looking at the proposal and like what you guys have built. I need a little bit of use case like this. The community can vote and eventually start, migrating to a more true sense of what NFT should be down the line. But for getting off the ground, we definitely need to have some initial people, make some proposals just so we can start getting some traction.
True. So maybe now that we're talking about the different phases of the roadmap, maybe we can talk about a bit specifically on Fund 3. I'm looking at the document you have. If people want to see more the roadmap, you can go to cardano.ideascale.com and look for the project. So when in Fund 3, I see here smart contracts, minting policies as well. You're focusing and establishing also the community where we just talked about, and also on the front end prototype. Maybe we can start with that now that we discussed already the community and where you at the moment on the front end prototype and the minting policies and smart contracts. Now, of course, I understand it's very early stage because also Cardano is not there yet. But maybe we can talk a bit about that.
Tyler, you want to take that one?
Definitely. So let's start with the front-end prototype, the wireframes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right now, what the problem we're running into right now, or not what we're working on right now, is figuring out what metadata needs to be handled initially with the initial forging, and what type of metadata has to be handled later on in the smart contract process. And that's kind of the first solution. And that comes down to what needs to be maybe possibly changed or be affected with the evolution of NFT. For example, some art it's called like programmable art, which is fluid. It's a permanent token initially, but the way it interacts with the world, it interacts with a defined mechanism, which so far it seems we need to handle with the smart contract. That's one problem we're working on right now.
Michael, you're working on that
Yep.
very piece. You want to talk on it?
Yeah, so I can't speak too much on it because we just had our first meeting yesterday. We're still in the process of forming teams, small teams and think tanks, and setting up meetings because our developers are around the whole world, as you can imagine from the proposal. We have people in Europe as well as Australia and the US. So right now we're still in the process of even figuring out what kind of problems need to be tackled, and we're starting at a very high level approach. We don't want to get down into the weeds of how everything is going to work, but rather we're focusing right now on the use cases of, like how Tyler mentioned, some art pieces will have metadata that's going to be evolving, whether it be if you imagine like a cosmetic of something, an in-game item, and something happens in the game, maybe all of a sudden you get more clothing or a badge on your shirt. Those things are going to be evolving with time. So we're trying to figure out exactly what needs to be the use cases before we go and dive into the actual coding and implementation, if that makes sense. So we're still at very early stages in that regard.
Yeah, but at least we've got really good thinking. We've got architects on the team. We've got developers on the team from all walks of life and all experience levels that are really thinking very considerately about what needs to happen in order to do this. Plus, we do have the ability to reach out to the IOG folks with any of the things that they're planning and implementing. So we feel pretty confident that we'll get to a solution, and we're pretty excited about the opportunity.
What's nice is we actually have a lot of, for the developers in the discussion, we have a lot of combined experience of people from different domains, which is very helpful. And we're already getting contributions for people with different ideas, which is very helpful at the start, because if everyone is just saying, oh, that sounds good, that might not work out in the long run because you didn't have people looking at it from different directions. So just the kind of conflicting ideas in the chat is really helpful for now. So being able to, pick the best things from each person and things like that, well, as we move forward, is, a telling sign that we're kind of have a lot of different expertise in the room. So that's going to bode well for us in the future.
And another thing, as far as like actual community engagement and bringing people into the DAO, we're way ahead of schedule than what we were anticipating when we first had that proposal in. Like Rich said, we're already at around 50 people here. We have a wide, diverse set of developers, UX designers, artists. We just got a new entry this morning. It was really interesting. It was a group that was making NFTs and looking at how NFTs can interact with like 3D printing. And I haven't even had a chance to have a deep dive with those guys yet, but I'm super excited about it. Just like in my mind, I'm like, what can you do with an NFT and a 3D print? Like, where does that go? And I'm excited to learn, and I'm excited to see how that actually fits into what we're doing.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's the part that is interesting, is that you have an idea on what are the initial use cases might be, and then it just goes its own way as the community grows.
Yeah, it's really important to approach this with an open mindset and like make sure that what we build as the base structure is going to incorporate everyone's ideas. And that's why this beginning stage of making sure that we get everyone's input in the beginning is important, that we get this right in the beginning.
Yeah.
before we build something and we have to tear it down and redo it for something we didn't even think of.
True. Troy, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I just wanted to touch on that point about one of also our early projects is around research. And so putting together a research strategy that's going to look at use cases. So we have a great team member who's Andy, who's an artist who's been doing the artworks for our ideation in the projects for the complex ideas that are coming up, and also some of the work on the website. So he's been leading a project that's around doing some market research about what current platforms are on the market and understanding the different use cases. So he's been seeing a lot of sort of projects on the periphery of these new imaginative use cases in the creative sector around how people are creating art, for instance, and creating really sort of permutations of NFTs embedded in the art itself that are unique artwork. So there is a lot of that work to do as well, just in the area of research and market research, and also researching how we engage as a community as well.
Yeah, true. Well, guys, we're approaching the end of the interview. If people that want to know more about the NFT DAO, can they? What's the best way to learn more about it?
Well, they can find everything at nft-dao.org, and that'll drive them to the proposal. It'll drive them to the Discord. We have the Discord listed, right, Tyler?
Yeah, Discord's on the website and the footer. There's a link to it. Right now, the website's really just a landing page to collect people and just to have a place to send them.
Yeah.
What I want to do with it is actually put a public roadmap on there. Maybe have like a question answer forum. We have a couple ideas to make that just a better, more interactive website, but that's already over. We've already put the website up, and we weren't even expecting that up yet. So, but that's going to get better, and all the links are there.
Perfect. Yeah. At least where people have a place to go, and then from there they can acts like the hub. From there they can go to the different platforms. Well, thank you very much, guys. It was very interesting to discuss about NFTs and what you envisioned for NFT DAO, and particularly for Fund 3 for your proposal. I'll leave also, as I mentioned at the beginning, a link to the proposal that, on Catalyst. And if you guys want to know more about NFT DAO, you heard where to contact the team and learn more about it. Otherwise, you can always go to cardano.ideascale.com to learn specifically about Fund 3. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for taking the time, and also thank to all the listeners and people that are watching this Cardano podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thanks, community. We need your votes.
Yeah.